As explained in our previous slide, it is important for employees to also know that they have rights under OSHA. Employees have the right to work in an environment that does not pose an immediate risk or serious harm to employees, receive information and training in their native language about chemical hazards, how to prevent harm, and OSHA standards that apply to their workplace. Employees also have the right to review records of any work-related injuries and illnesses reported. They can receive copies of test results from hazard measures conducted in the workplace. They can file an anonymous complaint against their employer requesting an inspection due to the belief of a serious hazard or that the employer is not following OSHA rules. The employee has legal rights to protect them against retaliation from their employer when anonymous complaints are filed to OSHA. If an employee experiences any form of retaliation, including being fired, being demoted, being transferred, or any other form of retaliation as a result of filing a complaint against their employer to OSHA, the employee can notify OSHA within 30 days of the retaliation occurring to file a complaint against the employer. There are various forms of OSHA coverage. The coverage includes private sector workers, which includes most private sector employees and workers within all 50 states. However, small employers with less than 10 employees are exempt from certain record-keeping requirements. The second is state and local government workers. Although they are not covered by federal OSHA, they do have protections in states that operate their own OSHA programs. A list of the states with their own state programs can be found on the OSHA.gov website. The third coverage provided by OSHA is to federal government workers. OSHA's protection applies to all federal agencies. However, they don't fine federal agencies for violations. Instead, they monitor the agencies and respond to any worker complaints that are received. There are a few situations where no coverage is provided by OSHA, and they are when an employee is self-employed and in a situation where a workplace hazard is regulated by another federal agency, such as the Health Administration. So as an employee, what do you do if a dangerous situation occurred at work? First, you should bring the situation to your employer's attention. Let them know what happened. Let them know what your concern is. Second, you should ask the employer to correct the hazard or assign you to another task. Let them know that because of the potential risk that can occur, your concerns for your safety and for the safety of your peers to perform the task. Third, tell the employer you won't perform the work unless the hazard is corrected. It goes back to letting them know that you are concerned for your safety. Fourth, you should remain on the work site until you're ordered to leave by the employer. If a clear risk for death or harm is present, the matter was brought to your employer's attention with no solution, and there is no sufficient time for OSHA to inspect, the employee has a legal right to refuse to work if they will be exposed to a hazard. Your right to refuse to do a task is protected if all of the following are met. If you have asked the employer to eliminate the danger, and the employer failed to do so. You refuse to do work in good faith, meaning you genuinely believe that an imminent danger exists. Another reasonable person would agree that a danger of death or serious injury is present. You want to be sure that as an employee, you're not being sensitive to a situation or overreacting over a situation. If others see the risk as a problem, then it most likely is a problem. And fourth, if there isn't enough time to get the hazard corrected through contacting regular enforcement channels such as OSHA, then you have met all the legal requirements in order to be protected under law to refuse to work. So what do you do if you're injured on the job? You first should always call your supervisor for help. The supervisors are there local, so it allows for quicker assistance. If your supervisor is not available, you should call 911 for any medical assistance. And the same applies if you see a coworker that gets injured. If you see a coworker that's injured, first call your supervisor, and if the supervisor isn't around, call 911 for any medical assistance. And that brings us to the end of this training. Let me give you a summary of what I've covered so far. OSHA is a small federal agency that was established in 1970 in response to dangerous work conditions across the nation, with the purpose of ensuring a safe and healthy work environment. To do so, OSHA developed health and safety standards in which organizations are responsible for following. The enforcement of OSHA has helped substantially reduce the amount of work fatalities, injuries, and illnesses in the United States. It has brought worker deaths down from 38 deaths a day, or almost 14,000 deaths a year in 1970, to 13 deaths a day, or a little over 4,000 a year in 2015. And it also brought down injury or illnesses that occur in the workplace down from 10.9 incidents per 100 workers in 1970 to 3 incidents per 100 employees in 2015. The third point that was covered in this training is that employers have the responsibility to comply with OSHA standards in order to ensure a safe work environment for workers. This is done by ensuring that chemical hazards are communicated effectively to employees, that employers are correcting any safety and health hazards they observe. They are also providing workers with necessary personal protective equipment that may be needed to perform their job. They are keeping accurate records of any illness or injury that occurs in the workplace. They are posting OSHA citations in visible areas. They are reporting any work-related deaths to OSHA within 8 hours, and also reporting any inpatient hospitalization, amputation, or loss of eye within 24 hours to OSHA. Employees have rights protected by OSHA, which includes the right to have a safe work environment, to receive information about hazards in their native language, the right to review records, receive copies of hazard results, file anonymous complaints against their employer, and protection against any form of retaliation from their employer. Also, as a reminder, there's several resources available on OSHA's website at osha.gov for trainings and resources that are available not only to employers to use in the workplace, but also for employees to use as reference for themselves, to find trainings, and also information to communicate to your peers at work. Just a reminder that you can contact OSHA by either going online at www.osha.gov or by phone at 1-800-321-OSHA. There they will be able to assist you with any questions, information, advice, reports of an emergency, reports of a fatality, or any confidential complaints that you might have against your workplace. I want to thank you for participating in my training and remind you to always think of safety first while at work. If you want to look at any of the information that has been presented in this training, you have my resources where you're able to find where I got the information and the data from. Thank you again.